Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. So the topic of today's video is an update on my generator shed. If you didn't watch the first video, there'll be a link in the description where you can click on it, where I basically put a 8/10 kilowatt Duramax generator in this plastic trash can container shed, kind of retrofitted it to work with the generator. And I also had a remote control setup so I could start it from inside the house. So fast forward a couple of years, it's been working pretty good. The only problem with that generator was as it started to age, and just with the increase in demand in the house for electricity, it just couldn't keep up. In the summer, it would not run the air conditioning system as well. So I wanted to get something a little bit bigger. Out where I live, we don't have natural gas. Propane is an option, but propane is very expensive and you use a lot of it, and then you're limited to what you have in your cylinder. It does store well. I just decided to stick with gasoline, so I wanted to get another gasoline generator. This time I went with a Westinghouse 12 kilowatt with a maximum output of 15 kilowatts. Go ahead and open up the shed here, show you the modifications that I had to make. All right, so this one is obviously a lot bigger than the Duramax. Same thing though, I took the wheels off and it just barely fits in the generator shed. A couple modifications that I made this time. So I utilized one of the remote control wires that I was using, and it is actually a battery charger cord. So it's plugged in the garage, and it's always keeping the generator trickle charged. On my last one, I used a solar charger. This works even easier because obviously if we have power, it's charging it. If we don't have power, the generator is charging itself. You can see I just had to make a couple of little carve outs for the plug. I have a large 50 amp plug. This generator supports, there's a couple 30 amp connections, you know, your GFCI outlet. This is obviously the one that powers my fan up here. So it just plugs directly in, so whenever the generator's on, the fan's on. I went ahead, there's a status light here on the generator. I went ahead and added an exterior status light. Basically shows you that your battery is functional and that the system's on. If I flip this switch right here, it shuts all the electronics off and the generator cannot be started. So I leave this on. What's nice, this generator actually came with a remote control, and it works, you know, a decent distance. The range is a little less when it's in this shed. Exhaust is always a consideration. So basically my setup here, it's insulated really well. Cool air is pulled in through this side, through these two vents, and it's drawn through the generator. The generator has its own large cooling fan. This is a Westinghouse 713cc V-twin. Basically it's just a clone of a Honda V-twin engine. 10.5 gallon tank. The air gets pulled through the generator housing and get exhausted right here. So you got the fan going on the generator itself and this fan exhausting it. And then I had to do something for the exhaust. So this pipe here, it's about 1.5 inch, just a little over 1.5 inch diameter. It actually slid right over the outlet to the muffler. So it's not welded to it or anything like that. It's just slid in place and then just tack welded to this old license plate here. And then behind here, I have a fire block insulation that's rated to almost 3,000 degrees. And then some high temperature silicone is what keeps everything sealed up. I use that same insulation all along the back wall and this side, and that is where the muffler is and where the majority of the heat is generated by the generator. Obviously, being in a plastic shed, we have to protect the plastic from the heat. Again, this is rated at almost 3,000 degrees. It's got a fiberglass material and then a foil face to reflect the heat. I kept my same AFO auto fire off, is what that stands for, ball. It's a pyrotechnic device. It's got a fuse that wraps all the way around it. If there's ever a fire in here, as soon as the fire makes contact with this, it lights the fuse and this explodes. And when it explodes, it blows out. It's like a fire extinguisher full of dry chemical fire extinguisher. And I actually did a video on how it works. And in an enclosed space like this, it's perfect. It should put out a fire really quick, prevent it from spreading further. Okay, so where I did not use the fireproof material, I have sound deadening, like automotive sound deadening mat, and it's got like a rubber backing, and it's self-stick, self-adhesive, and that's what covers the doors and the ceiling, and it makes a huge difference. Most of the noise of the generator is not actually from the exhaust. After all, it has a muffler on it. It's from just the engine itself, the noise that it makes, and I'll demonstrate that here in a second when I start it. So what's nice about this, like I said, it's remote control. I'm choosing to backfeed my panel with a lockout switch on the main 200 amp breaker. So there are multiple ways you can power your house with a generator like this. This actually could be wired to a universal automatic transfer switch on the electric meter next to it, where it just automatically switches over. But I still wanted to have that control over when the generator starts and what appliances I choose to run. I don't want this just to come on when I'm not home by itself and run for no reason when no one's home. So there's nothing that's critical that needs to be running that when I'm not home. It's just I can manage the load in the house by flipping breakers on and off. But it is important to do it properly, and you can't just backfeed your panel without a lockout. It's really dangerous, and it's also against code. So obviously I got like 50 amp connection. It runs in, it goes into a breaker in the box, then there's a lockout. It literally takes about 10 seconds to get the generator running and be on generator power once the power goes out. So we just press this button here or the start stop button on the generator. So it is a lot quieter with that on there. In fact, this might be quieter than the last one. Obviously, if we come around to this side, it gets a little louder with the exhaust. So just hit the off button, shuts off. I also wrapped the whole exhaust all the way from the muffler out before I screwed this plate on with that fire block. The nice thing is if I ever need to service the generator, it's still completely possible without taking the generator out. So here's my battery in the front if I need to service that. Oil, you can literally just reach around here and it's got one of these quick drain where you just set this down into a pan, drain the oil. Only the trickiest part would be the oil filter. just right around the back here. There's an actual screw-on automotive style oil filter on this engine. Again though, just set a little cup under the oil filter and I can just reach around when this is cold and spin that oil filter right off. And it's pretty easy to maintain. If I do ever need to kind of jerk it around and move it, there's nothing holding it in place. It's just sitting here. There is a rubber mat, and I did pour a concrete foundation for it this time. Over time, this whole thing had settled. It made the doors not want to open and close. So I decided to add the concrete, put the rubber mat right here just for a little bit of extra insulation. And it does keep the generator from sending, you know, kind of like a vibration into the house. This generator also has a high temperature shutoff built in, and obviously a low oil shutoff as just a safety device for the engine. But the high temperature shutoff is something I had to add to my last one, so it's nice that that has it. The reason I went with this generator, with my Duramax generator, when it was powering the house, you could see the LED lights were flickering. Anytime a load came on, the hertz would change on the generator, and it wasn't running at 60 hertz, and it would try to balance that load with the governor, and it just wasn't ideal. The harmonic distortion is what it's called, was somewhere above 20% with the Duramax, and on a home generator you want under 5%. So this Westinghouse 12 kilowatt has under 5% total harmonic distortion. That it's just a better alternator basically that's installed, or better generator that's installed in this unit, which makes it cost a little bit more. This generator was kind of pricey. It was around $2,300. They do make a version normally that will run on propane or gasoline. This one only runs on gasoline. You could convert it yourself. I don't know if there's a part shortage, but the dual fuel ones are pretty much impossible to find right now. You can buy this generator on Amazon, and a lot of the parts that I use to make the generator shed, pretty much everything you can buy on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave links in the description below. All right, so as always, if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. Like the video, that helps, and subscribe for more. And until next time, we'll see you later.